Hey guys, HappyCattyCrypto here and welcome back to the channel. So has anybody seen the new Mad Max film? I'm honestly such a huge fan of the Mad Max world as a whole, but the new film has absolutely smashed it. I think what's more relevant at the moment is the new Ledger Stack system. If you haven't seen the Ledger Stacks, go and check it out. I'm definitely going to be getting one when the new orders are available to get in. For me, I've always wanted a ledger system like this, and it has a very kind of like niche bookie feel to it. It's really nice. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. I'll try to leave a link to it in the description. So let's move on to some Terra Luna Classic stuff, because honestly, things are heating up in a very, very good way, and everybody seems to be rowing in the same direction, and it's really, really good. And I've spoken a lot about the token factory, the bulletin board, the job board, even if it's just a suggestions board in the Commonwealth, so to speak. I think these are all really good points, and it's all very relevant to kind of my point of view at the moment as to when it comes down to the next step in this process, because this really is a big step and it's all based around trust. And I think as a community, as a blockchain, we have the responsibility to act maturely in this situation, because although we've got KYC, although we've got all of these different things, right, it does not prevent human failure. It doesn't prevent those single points of failure. And these are really important. So when it comes down to somebody taking over the core repository, I think we need to take a lot into account. I don't think this is something that should be proposed yet. I think there should be a lot of discussion around this. I think there should be some Twitter spaces. I'm thinking about holding one today myself, so keep an eye out for that. But I think it's really important. A lot of discussion goes into this. So if we look at this and we say to ourselves, inherently, what are the risks here? Well, the risks are they have the core repository. So I think there needs to be not a code of conduct, but a contract put in place of what is expected of this core repository maintenance team. So for me, and although I like what Genuine Labs has been doing, I like the way that they get their heads down and they crack on with things. Their communication is not very good. And I'm seeing a few other people mentioning this as well, which is really good. We need people to say about the negative stuffs, even if they think it's going to put them in a position where they're not going to get communicated with. And I've always kind of like felt like this is something I suffer with, but nonetheless, I'll still report on what I want to report on, and I won't ignore something to remain in a mutually beneficial state with someone, because life shouldn't work like that. We should be able to speak freely, and we should be able to call out all of the ups and all of the downs. It's really important, because once we begin to acknowledge these things, acknowledgement is the first part of a step. When we ignore stuff and act like it's not happening, the situation just gets worse. So it's all different stuff to take, and it's all food for thought. The thing I would like to see most, I think, with this contract is definitely some kind of monthly Twitter space, where they update the community can come up, validators can come up, and we can ask questions, and not just for the simple fact of like getting to know these people, or putting them in an awkward position, but we're in an attention market. And when we have these kind of Twitter spaces, and that's where everything's at the moment, is on Twitter. A lot of engagement is now happening with spaces. Again, it happens every time around the bull run. And we actually saw this when Terra Luna Classic was first adopted by a lot of us. So with all of this, right, it's a situation where I would like to see a lot more communication. I would like to see a contract put into place that's got fail safes in place, and then maybe some kind of legal team to be paid to go over the contract and fine tune it in a legal manner that protects the chain and it protects the developers as well, because it's important that this is all met in the middle moving forward. But this is a huge step. I'm not going to sit here and act like this is like a hugely bullish thing that we should jump straight into, because we certainly shouldn't. I think we've learned this many times over with development teams. We went through a process, if everybody remembers, with Vin, Gevik, Einonman, just completely ignoring the community, even if something was agreed on with them doing. in an actual podcast, they still deviated from it. And I don't ever want to see us back in that position. So it's really important that all of the circumstances are ironed out. Because when you have the core repository, to get another core repository, if something was to go wrong, you're going to need the consensus to agree with that. And we could be put in a position where it's 50-50. And something that I've noticed many times over, and I've mentioned many times over, is Genuine Labs have excellent communication with people like Vegas, people like Diamond Hands, but very poor communication with people like myself, people like Streff, people like Rexy as well, also have very poor communication with them. And obviously for us, we're validators, it doesn't help us. We're not community members in the sense that we don't have anything to worry about. We've got validators that we need to run. If it turns out that we need more RAM, more memory, more anything, we need to know these things. And it's so important that we have as much time to prepare as possible. So the update did go off without a hitch. I've got absolutely no arguments with the way that these guys are working or what they're doing or the cost of the work. I just have those small little things where I'd like to see a lot more communication, not just for us, but for you, the community, and also for the chain. So externally, people can see what's going on and we can start to bring in a new user base, because there's a huge, I think, I wouldn't say an argument, but more a lot of perspectives on the situation with KYC. Some people believe that if KYC wasn't around and we didn't have it, we would have more development teams working on the chain and probably getting bids for work. I also agree with this. I do think that, yeah, you probably would. But obviously then you introduce that inherent risk of bringing a malicious actor on board. But what I think is really important is that our chain revolves around governance. And I think people spend so much time kind of sharing their point of view with the other person, and then that person shares their point of view, and then the confliction and friction kind of begins. I think what's really good is to just get something up in Commonwealth. So if you feel like KYC should be removed and we should revert back to an older system that's more simple, less intricate, and have more developers hopefully coming in like these people think, then you should get it up and you should propose it, because you're such a small, I wouldn't say section or like trying to individualize you, but just simply saying you're a very small part of this community. So in essence, you're not really getting a true idea of how the community feels and how the developers feel and how the validators feel, because there's been so many times when I thought to myself, this validator would vote yes or they would vote no, and they do the total opposite. So that's something I've kind of picked up and learned over time. It's always better to just get it out there for everybody to see so people can discuss. And if people are interested in it, they'll comment on it, they'll talk about it, they'll report on it, and they'll get it out there. So this is all really good stuff. So something that I wanted to point out here is the developers that check Genuine Labs' work, and not check it in the sense of handing in your test, but just going over, checking the code, checking to see not so much if there's anything malicious, but just anything that shouldn't be there, so to speak. And I think this is all stuff that Genuine Labs need to acknowledge, because I think a lot of these, well, I know all of these developers that do that are working for free. They do everything for free. So I think if Genuine Labs is going to be the maintenance team, then we need to think about the people that are putting in a lot of time on this chain and have put in a lot of time on this chain, and think about getting them as part of this maintenance team. And then something else to give thought to is with the KYC system, with everything that's going on, it's probably a good time now to start looking for an L2 team. There's got to be a lot of developers that can see cryptos heating up, for example, and they're probably looking for work. The Cosmos itself is a very big environment, but what we should understand is that Luna Classic can be a highly versatile multi-chain blockchain. And it is an L1, it's got all of these intricate intelligent systems. So I don't think there's a lot of negativity on the horizon when it comes to the Luna Classic community. I just don't think there's enough communication from where it matters, so to speak. So for example, from Genuine Labs being those core maintainers and stuff like that, it's going to be a really interesting scenario to see how this plays out and see how people kind of talk about this. This is why I wanted to do the Twitter space today, to kind of gauge the motions that everybody's going through this, because I can imagine everybody's got a strong opinion and a lot of those opinions vary across board. But let me know what you think about all of this. It's really interesting stuff. Let me know if you've got Ledger stacks as well. If you have got one and you managed to get one, can you let me know if they're worth buying? Drop a comment. Let me know if you haven't. I'll try to leave a link to it. If not, just Google Ledger stacks. It will come up straight away. Very excited to get my hands on one of those, and check out the Mad Max film if you haven't seen it yet. Absolutely awesome. Folks, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the notifications bell to stay informed. Dropping those comments and dropping those likes really does help this channel. It's a very small thing for you, but for us, it's substantially huge. It allows us to get picked up by the algorithm. It allows us to continue making content, and it's really nice engagement wise for us. Stay safe, stay humble, stay aware. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.